Hey everyone, this is smpratte, and in this video I want to address the numerous questions in relation to future valuation of Pokemon products. So I probably receive 5 to 10 questions a day in relation to what is my card going to be worth, what is this set going to be worth, what is this booster box going to be worth, should I buy more of it, what's it going to be worth in 3 to 5 years, etc. If you are asking me those questions, I will try to address them in a general sense in this video. If you want specific answers for them, I will talk about a consultation idea that I have towards the end of the video. However, speaking in general, the ideas for this video will be about risk in relation to investing in Pokemon, and also I'll give you examples of what risk looks like and how to nullify or better manage your risk when you're buying a product. So, the general concept of risk in Pokemon boils down to the core concept of investing. So I think in Pokemon, a lot of people take for granted that investing in something, there's an inherent risk involved because Pokemon is a popular brand, knock on wood. I think a lot of people forget that when they take their money, buy whatever product it is, you're inherently risking that purchase and hoping that there will be a future gain. So a good contrast would be your savings account. Your savings account is a good neutral, zero risk, pretty much zero reward. There's absolutely no risk in a savings account, therefore there's essentially no reward. Usually savings account percentages or interest rates are so negligible, it's not even worth mentioning. However, with Pokemon, there is opportunity to make money. And the best way to seize that opportunity is knowledge and experience. The best way to eliminate risk is knowledge and experience. So again, how you acquire that experience, I've mentioned this before in other videos, you have to be engaged in the hobby. If you have a genuine engagement or commitment to the hobby, you will be better off long term. That's just a universal truth in anything you do, whether that's your classes at school, your job, your hobbies, if you're into sports, if you're into music, whatever it is, the more you are engaged, the better off you'll be. And that's the same with Pokemon. So if you have some engagement, follow that engagement, invest in that engagement, do your research, get on E4 or get on forums or, search on Google and get on social media or whatever it is. And, just keep consuming that information, keep being engaged in the hobby. When you're collecting over a couple of years, you'll start to develop a better understanding of the market. So when people are asking me, what is this set going to be worth in the future? If they had a couple of years under the belt or 3 years under the belt, they could better assess what that set will be worth. And they'll probably ask a more specific question. They'll say, how much of this specific set should I buy and how much of it should I open, etc., because they have a better grasp on how the market works. So again, this is more of a general approach because I can't give you a specific diagnostic. I'll talk about that in a little bit in relation to consultation. But when you are looking at this and saying, what is my card going to be worth? What is the sealed product going to be worth, etc. For me, my motto that I mentioned before is the older the rare, the minter the better. And that's basically a quick motto it's almost a checklist to eliminate your risk. So if the card is old, if it's rare, and if it's mint, you pretty much eliminated majority of the risk as long as the market sustains. As long as the market of Pokemon sustains, there's not much risk in buying something that meets that criteria. So I would say a Shadowless base set holo card, it's old, it's rare, and if it's mint, as long as your price point is solid, there's nothing to worry about. So that's a great example of an old, rare, mint or better that fits the qualifications. And this doesn't mean everything has to fit that paradigm. A good example would be the 15th anniversary Pikachus. And this is a good example for multiple aspects. It's a good example of how it doesn't fit the paradigm and still works, and also how experience and intuition works when you're buying a new product. So for me, when I saw those 15th anniversary Pikachus, it's a brand new product, but what made me buy a ton of them right away is that intuition from the past. Those patterns from the past ultimately gave me a good impression when I looked at that Pikachu card, almost instantaneously. And what I mean by that is the Pikachu card was the first full art Pikachu card released. Pikachu is a very popular Pokemon, very collectible. It also was a niche release in Japan. So it wasn't released here in the US, and it was a promo release in Japan. Therefore, immediately I sized it up and I was like, this is a very safe purchase. Doesn't mean it's going to be worth 5 times the price, even though luckily that one was because it had an exorbitant amount of popularity. But what it does mean at the end of the day is it's a very low risk purchase. So that's a good example of how it doesn't have to meet that paradigm of older, rare, mint or better. That is a very rare card. And they were mint as well. And I think if you had to add one category as well in there, that's somewhat of more of a subjective category, but it still has its role, is popularity or desirability, etc. Something like that. Okay, and Pikachu, Charizard, Blastoise, etc. The main species of the very popular collectible species. That's one of the reasons why that Pikachu card did so well, and still why today it's a very collectible item. More specifically, I think a lot of the Mario Pikachu, Luigi Pikachu, the cosplay Pikachu cards, those I think echoed from that original full art 15th anniversary Pikachu. It echoed that same concept. I mean, of course, it's not got the same exact fanfare as the 15th did because that was the first one. However, those cards are still very popular again because it's unique artwork, niche release, especially ones like this that are a crossover, which is a whole nother level. But at the end of the day, it's a unique release, only in Japan, unique artwork, elimination of risk. That's a great example of elimination of risk. And more specifically, it's not a very advanced purchase. I would say that's more of an intermediate purchase. It's something a beginner couldn't do. Maybe after watching this video, you're like, oh, okay, I see what's going on there. But that's more in the middle. It's not something you could just overnight understand. So that also plays into the idea of experience. If you have that experience, it'll better help you make those purchases down the road in real time, okay, where you'll be able to possess that knowledge yourself. A good contrast to something that does have risk is the evolution set. And this is actually a great example of risk and defining risk in Pokemon because risk isn't black and white. So right now, the short-term reality of evolutions is risky. There's risk to that. And there's not much opportunity for the short term of evolutions right now because there's so much product out there. It's still in production. It's readily available. Therefore, if you expect to take sealed product, make a quick gain, that's not feasible. Unless you're a high volume business, and even at a high volume business, your margins are microscopic with sealed product because it's over the top saturated right now on the open market. Therefore, your price point is going to be flirting with almost pre-release price point at about $90-ish. Normally, fair market value is probably $95 to $110 for a new booster box. Pre-release is about $90. So the price point is fluctuating in there on the low end of the $95. So basically, this doesn't have much of a short-term option. This has to be a long-term acquisition or a long-term purchase. So if you are looking for a short-term gain with evolutions, that risk right now, there's way too much risk for reward. However, that doesn't mean you just cut and run. It's not black and white. So I'm sure if we talk about this set 5 years from now, it's going to be a different game. We talk about this set 10 years from now, it's going to be a much different situation. So right now, we're in the production stage. But once that ends, again, this is a non-essential niche market. This is a niche item. Even if there was more product out there than the set before, it's still a limited production. Once this ends, people are going to still open boxes. People are still going to whatever. They're still going to open packs, whatever it may be. If you have time on your side, that risk starts to become smaller and smaller. That doesn't mean that risk is going to turn into the same variable as your 15th anniversary Pikachu. That doesn't mean this is going to turn into a base set situation, okay? I doubt that same variance is going to happen. However, risk will guaranteed decrease with time. How much? No one can tell you, but I can tell you through my experience, it will decrease over time. So hopefully that conversation of risk and highlighting the value of experience and how that works in relation to your purchases just gives you a good general sense on what you can do. Like a lot of people ask me about evolutions and things like that, how much they should buy. Again, that would be a specific discussion. And the one thing I did want to get to lastly was the idea of consultation. Multiple people have asked me about doing a consultation thing. I've done this in the past before with people where I sit down, I either Skype or we have a phone call, and you just fire questions at me. I give you answers for your specific needs or goals. So guys who are asking, what should I do? How much should I buy? That's going to require a very specific conversation. I would need to know how much money you can spend per month, what your realistic goals are, how long you're willing to invest, etc. We'd have to talk about that. That'd have to be a conversation. More specifically, that conversation I simply I don't have the time for. So if you do want that, it would have to cut out from my work or business. Therefore, time is money. It's something that I would need to be paid to do. If that is something you are interested in, I'm more than willing to do it. Some people offered or suggested doing a Patreon where we do that type of setup. Maybe that's something I'll implement down the road. Feel free to give me your feedback on that. But to wrap everything up in relation to risk in Pokemon and risk management or isolating risk, the more you are engaged in the hobby, the more you will internally understand how the market works. Therefore, you will start to trim away the fat and understand how much of something you should buy and how much you shouldn't. Even to this day, I still go through that process. When I buy a new product, like Sun and Moon, for example, initially I bought like 3 cases, I think, from Japan. I should have bought 5. Okay, I had to make another order quickly. I should have bought 5. I should have bought 5 of each set or 10 of each set. that's the type of thing that, even for me, it's like I still work through how much of this should I buy. That risk management is a process. It's always going to happen. And for people who are very new, I've seen people on E4 who've probably been there a couple years now, and the growth from when they started till now is crazy. I know guys who they're just committed, and they came into the forum with maybe a couple booster boxes, and I know one guy in particular, right now, he pretty much has every single booster box out, majority of the booster boxes from each set, because he was committed, he was focused, he was engaged, he stuck with it, and the proof's in the pudding. So as long as you're engaged, you will see some type of growth. Doesn't mean you're going to catch them all in 2 years, but it will mean that you will be better off than not being engaged. So hopefully that discussion gives you a better grasp of how risk works. It's not black and white. Even when risk exists in something like evolutions, or there is present risk, invest in time. As long as the market sustains, time will be your friend, patience will be your friend. One more example to close with. I had a Gold Star Espion from 2014, right when the Gold Star bubble burst, and there was that ripple effect of saturation. Literally and figuratively, when the bubble burst, there was that ripple effect of people saturating the market. So therefore, if I tried to flip that card quickly for a short-term gain, I probably wouldn't have made any money. Probably would have broken even. However, I held that card for another year to year and a half, same price point, and guess what happened? The market changed. The complexion changed for gold stars. They started to become more difficult to find after people got out of that manic stage of buying, selling for the gold star bubble. Less Espions were available, and I knew at the time, I was like, this is a niche card, niche release. I'm just going to hold it and wait. And sure enough, someone hit buy it now at that price point I had back then in more recent history, and I think the fair market value is even higher than what I sold it at currently right now making this video. So that's another good example of how my experience from the past of selling those first edition base set Charizard PSA 9s for $300, yeah, that's what I sold them for. Fucking stupid, but that experience is what remains inside, and then when you see that Espion card in the future, I remember, hang on, I remember selling this very rare item for very cheap, so I should just be patient and I'll be better off. So hopefully that gives you good understanding of risk and how it works. As usual, if you have any questions, let me know, and feel free to give me feedback on that consultation idea as well. Until next time.